Welcome to Echoes of Ihsan podcast.
Glad to be here.
Today we're going on a deep dive into Sahih Muslim Hadith, Book 7, Pilgrimage.
Oh, an amazing choice.
This book has so many accounts of the Prophet Muhammad's Hajj. We're going to uncover not just the rituals, but the stories, the context, and, well, the deeper meaning kind of woven into this journey.
It's fascinating how these hadiths aren't just instructions,
Yeah.
They really paint this picture of how faith was just a natural part of life, even during something as demanding as Hajj.
Yeah, like walking back in time with the Prophet.
Exactly.
Okay, so the very beginning,
Okay.
our sources mention the talbiyah,
Right.
that declaration every pilgrim makes.
Wonderful.
We're given the words, sure, but we're also told exactly when and where the Prophet said it, as if we're there.
These details really matter, they add so much depth.
Oh, for sure.
For example, Abdullah ibn Umar talks about the Prophet entering the state of Ihram, near the mosque at Dhul Hulayfa, with his camel already. It's like you can picture it, right? That anticipation. And then, hair all neat, he says, "Here I am at thy service, O Lord. Here I am at thy service. Here I am at thy service. There is no associate with thee."
It's amazing to think those words connect millions of pilgrims through time.
Such a strong link to the Prophet.
It really is.
And the talbiyah, it's not just going through the motions.
No.
It's declaring submission to God, rejecting other idols.
Right at the start of this journey.
Sets the tone.
Absolutely.
And the hadiths go on. They describe him praying 2 rakas before even getting on the camel.
Wow, so intentional.
Every little thing had meaning.
Yeah.
It shows how devoted he was, especially during Hajj.
Hmm.
And it's cool how these practices were passed down.
Oh, like through the generations?
Yeah, like Ibn Umar, he learned the talbiyah directly from the Prophet.
Shows how important that direct connection was.
Absolutely.
Okay, so speaking of learning, the hadiths also give us a lot of practical advice, right?
Right.
Like what you can and can't do during Ihram.
During this sacred state.
Exactly.
Things that might be normal usually, but not then.
Right, like hunting, right.
Exactly.
There's that story about someone offering the Prophet a wild ass as a gift.
While he's in Ihram.
Yeah.
And he refused.
Because of the Ihram.
It shows how special those rules are.
But then later on, there's this hadith where Abu Qatada hunts a wild ass.
While traveling with the Prophet?
Yeah, and they eat it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems kind of contradictory.
It does at first.
Right.
But if you look closer, Abu Qatada wasn't actually in the state of Ihram at that time.
Oh, interesting.
He was traveling with the group, but, well, his Ihram was different.
Ah, so they're different types.
Exactly.
Wow, so many layers.
And that's why seeking knowledge is so important.
So the specific guidelines?
There are always exceptions.
So much deeper than just a surface-level understanding.
Absolutely.
I feel like we're peeling back history and tradition.
We are.
This is already amazing.
And remember those forbidden acts you were talking about? Well, the hadiths also tell us what is allowed.
Oh.
And some of them might surprise you.
Like what?
Well, they talk about how the Prophet addressed concerns about hygiene during Ihram.
So even in this pure state, basic needs were still important.
Exactly.
I like that.
It wasn't about just banning everything.
Right.
He offered practical solutions. Like, perfumes are usually forbidden during Ihram.
Right.
But Aisha narrates how she put perfume on him before he entered that state.
Interesting.
So it's about balance.
Between the ritual and just life.
Precisely.
Aligning your actions with the spirit of the pilgrimage.
Even small things can have deeper meaning.
With the right intention.
Exactly.
And that intentionality seems so key, especially when it comes to the different types of Ihram.
Absolutely.
Right? There's Tamatu, where you combine Umrah with Hajj, and Qiran, where you do them together.
At the same time.
It's like there's choice built into this.
You're right, there is.
And we see all 3 types practiced by the Prophet and his companions.
It's fascinating.
More choice, more flexibility.
While still keeping the core principles.
It's not just about the rituals, though.
No, it's not.
Our sources show us the social side of things during the Prophet's Hajj.
Oh, that historical context?
Like we hear about his wives asking for guidance.
Like Aisha, she was worried about performing Hajj while menstruating.
Oh, wow. Real-life challenges.
Even in the Prophet's household.
It makes it all so much more relatable.
It makes it human.
And we see how the Prophet was there for everyone.
So compassionate.
So we've got the talbiyah, what you can and can't do, different types of Ihram, the social interactions. But there's one Hajj that stands out.
The farewell pilgrimage.
Such a pivotal moment in Islamic history.
The last one.
And the sources are full of details about it, showing the Prophet's leadership and the legacy he was leaving behind.
A powerful time.
It wasn't just about rituals at this point.
It was much bigger.
He talked about social justice, equality, and following the Quran.
His address at Arafat was amazing.
It was-
He talked about how sacred life and property are.
And got rid of those old practices.
Blood revenge, usury.
He emphasized rights within marriage. It's incredible that these messages from so long ago are still relevant today.
They really are.
We're still grappling with these issues.
It shows they're universal, timeless.
The farewell pilgrimage was a journey of the heart and soul.
Spiritual growth, social change, reaffirming those core values.
So we've talked about how important that farewell pilgrimage was.
Right.
But let's zoom in on the rituals for a bit.
Okay.
We've got tawaf, circling the Kaaba,
Right.
running between Safa and Marwa,
Yeah.
stoning the Jamarat.
And that final farewell circumambulation.
So much symbolism in each step.
There is.
Like tawaf, going around the Kaaba.
the holiest site.
It's like a physical display of our devotion to God.
It really is.
And the running between Safa and Marwa reminds us of Hajar.
Searching for water.
Her faith was incredible.
Unwavering.
It's amazing how these actions connect us to stories from the past.
That's the power of ritual. For sure.
It transcends language, time,
Creates this shared experience through generations.
a link between past, present, and future.
And then there's the stoning of the Jamarat.
Rejecting temptation.
Something we all struggle with.
Absolutely.
The Prophet threw 7 pebbles at the Jamrat al-Aqaba, saying Allahu Akbar with each one.
Such a powerful declaration.
Standing firm in our faith.
Against those negative forces.
It's not just a personal struggle, though.
No, it's not.
It's like a collective act of defiance.
Oppression.
A commitment to fighting injustice.
It's powerful.
Each act, it's like a tiny version of that bigger spiritual journey.
Layers as meaning.
And finally, we have the farewell circumambulation.
The culmination of Hajj.
That feeling of closure.
Gratitude and a bit of sadness, too.
Like saying goodbye to someone you love, but keeping their spirit with you.
It's a beautiful way to put it.
The Hajj changes us from the inside out.
It leaves its mark.
This has been so enlightening. I feel like we've walked with the Prophet and his companions. It's like watching it unfold.
But we're not just watching.
No, we're not.
These rituals teach us valuable lessons, even if we haven't done Hajj ourselves.
There's so much to learn.
So far, we've focused on the Hajj rituals themselves.
A good foundation.
But our sources also take us beyond Mecca to Medina.
The city of the Prophet.
That's a special place.
It is.
The Prophet built the first Muslim community there,
And his mosque stands there.
a beacon of faith.
It is.
And the Hadiths talk about how sacred Medina is, describing its boundaries and the blessings for those who live there.
Even when things are hard.
It's incredible to think that he encouraged people to stay in Medina, even when times were tough,
He promised to intercede for them.
to be their advocate.
He knew what they were going through.
There's this really touching hadith where someone is advised not to leave Medina.
Even though things were hard for him there.
Expensive, difficult,
He reminded him about the Prophet's promise.
to be there for those who stayed strong.
It shows how spiritually important Medina was.
Those blessings weren't about comfort
They were about facing trials.
and keeping your faith strong in that sacred city.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
Sometimes staying rooted in a place of spiritual significance, even if it's difficult, can be more rewarding than searching for comfort elsewhere.
Enduring for something bigger than yourself.
Connecting to something beyond the material world.
That hadith about the Prophet describing the space between his house and pulpit in Medina as a garden of paradise really stuck with me.
Such a beautiful image.
Linking the physical with the spiritual.
Paradise isn't some distant place.
We can get glimpses of it right here, right now.
Cultivating that peace within.
And connection.
Devotion can make any space sacred.
It's interesting that this specific space was like the heart of the early Muslim community.
It wasn't just his home.
People prayed there, learned there, came together there.
By calling it a garden of paradise, the Prophet was maybe highlighting the importance of faith, knowledge, community.
As ways to create our own inner paradise.
Building that space inside and out, where those values do grow.
It all comes back to that idea that faith isn't just rituals.
It's a way of life.
It's a mindset, a way of being.
Aligning everything we do with Islamic principles.
Exactly.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the Hajj itself.
Okay.
We've talked about the rituals, the history, the social side of it.
Right.
But what's the real meaning for someone going on this journey today? What can we learn that goes beyond just the physical act of pilgrimage?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
What really comes through in these accounts is that Hajj is such a personal and transformative thing.
Definitely.
It's about letting go of all the worldly distractions and standing before God with complete humility.
A true reset.
Like hitting that reset button,
Yeah.
reconnecting with our purpose, getting our priorities straight, shedding all that ego and attachment we pick up in our daily lives.
And it takes so much preparation.
It does.
Not just physically, but mentally and spiritually too.
The Hadiths really emphasize that.
Sincere intention, patience, seeking knowledge.
The story of Ka'b ibn Ujra is a great example.
Oh, tell me about it.
He went to the Prophet complaining about head lice during Ihram.
Oh, wow.
It seems like such a small thing,
Right?
but it was really bothering him.
Of course.
The Prophet told him to shave his head,
Practical.
but he also gave him options for expiation.
Showing that compassion.
It's a beautiful balance.
It shows that the Prophet wasn't just focused on strictly following the rules.
He understood that we're human,
We need flexibility.
understanding within the framework of Islam.
So it's not about blindly following rules.
It's about getting the spirit of them
applying them with wisdom.
and compassion
Hajj is about finding that balance between our obligations and our needs.
with understanding.
And this idea applies to so much of the Hajj.
Yes.
The Hadiths give guidance on all sorts of things.
Clothing, hygiene,
The order of the rituals.
receptions.
It's like a complete guidebook.
For navigating this incredible journey.
It's amazing how these guidelines from centuries ago are still relevant today. They help us approach Hajj with intention.
Understanding,
When
aligning our actions with our inner state.
we're learning from those who came before us.
Their wisdom, their insights,
It shows how timeless these teachings are.
for every generation.
Okay, so we've talked about how Hajj is more than just rituals.
More than just the actions.
It's this deep personal transformation,
It takes preparation.
a willingness to learn and adapt,
But there's also this crucial social aspect.
highlighted in the Hadiths.
We see the Prophet with his companions.
Giving guidance, resolving
It's
issues.
building that unity.
There are so many stories of pilgrims helping each other out,
Sharing what they have.
creating these bonds that go beyond culture and social barriers,
It's like a perfect example of the Muslim community.
where differences fade away,
And unity and compassion take over.
shifting from individual needs to collective well-being.
Highlighting how connected we all are.
And this feeling goes beyond the Hajj itself.
It does?
Pilgrims come back changed.
Oh, yeah.
They bring that spirit of unity back with them.
To their families and communities.
It ripples outward,
Spreading, influencing society.
creating understanding.
Breaking down walls.
This social impact is truly profound.
It really is.
It can bridge divides, build understanding.
Contribute to a more peaceful world.
But along with all this talk of unity and compassion, the sources also mention some strict rules,
Consequences.
like polytheists aren't allowed to perform Hajj.
And the warnings against disrespecting Medina.
It's important to understand this in its historical context.
The early Muslims faced so many challenges.
These rules protected them
Safeguarded their faith. They were meant to keep those core values safe.
at a time when things were new and changing.
It's not about excluding people.
It's about protecting something precious,
It's a reminder that our understanding of faith can change over time.
and we need to approach these things carefully.
With humility and open mind.
It brings us back to our deep dive.
Exploring the deeper meanings of Hajj.
It's not just about the actions of the rules,
It's about the spirit behind them.
how they can guide us to a better life. I think we've done that today.
We have.
We've talked about the history, the spiritual meaning,
Practical guidelines, social impact.
trying to find that deeper meaning.
It's amazing what we can learn from these hadiths.
They're full of wisdom,
Always more to discover.
deeper layers to uncover. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed with information, but in a good way.
That's what learning is all about.
My understanding of Hajj is so much bigger now,
Pushing our boundaries.
embracing what we don't know.
Letting our minds grow.
I'm ready for more,
I know.
but I think this is a good place to pause.
Let's take it all in. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring Hajj, as described in Sahih Muslim Book 7, uncovering all these layers of meaning and history.
Yeah, it's been amazing so far. We've talked about the rituals, the background, the social aspects, even Medina. And you know what strikes me?
What's that?
How much emphasis there is on knowledge and learning throughout these hadiths.
Yeah, it's definitely there.
Like, we see people always asking the Prophet for guidance, clearing up doubts, making sure they're doing things right.
It shows you how important it was to understand the why behind everything.
Like, there's that hadith about Ibn Abbas being sent to Abu Ayyub al-Ansari to ask about how the Prophet washed his head during Ihram.
It seems small, right?
But they wanted to be so precise, even with simple things.
Such deep respect for the Prophet's example.
It's like they wanted to follow his every step.
Absolutely. Not just the big things, but every little detail.
And in a world where we have so much information, but not all of it's reliable,
It's even more important now
to find those trustworthy sources.
to make sure our understanding is built on a solid foundation.
And that attention to detail, it's in the rituals too.
Right.
The Hadiths describe exactly how to do tawaf, circling the Kaaba.
Even the specific prayers for each stage.
It's like a guidebook,
Making sure every action is done with intention and awareness.
not just going through the motion.
Exactly.
But this emphasis on knowledge, it's not just about the outer actions, is it?
No, it goes deeper.
It's about understanding what the pilgrimage means on the inside.
That inner transformation.
That spiritual growth.
The Prophet describing the space between his house and pulpit in Medina as a garden of paradise that really shows this.
It's not just about the place itself,
It's about how we connect with the divine.
turning any space into something sacred
We can find paradise within ourselves.
through our actions and our connection to God,
Hajj is a chance to work on both our outer and inner selves
leading to a deeper understanding of who we are.
and our relationship with God.
And one thing that really stands out about Hajj is how it brings people together.
Transcends those social barriers.
We see the Prophet talking about equality and justice, breaking down those tribal divisions.
That feeling of brotherhood and sisterhood that goes beyond culture and background.
The farewell pilgrimage really emphasizes this,
Especially in the sermon at Arafat.
declaring the sanctity of life and property, getting rid of those old practices,
Blood revenge, usury.
and the importance of treating women with respect. It's amazing how those messages are still so relevant today.
They speak to issues we're still dealing with.
Islam isn't just about rituals. It's about how we live our lives.
Social justice, compassion, ethical behavior.
And the Hajj itself shows this in how it's structured.
People from all walks of life doing the same rituals, wearing the same simple clothes.
Standing together in prayer,
It's a visual reminder of equality.
breaking down those walls we build between us.
In the eyes of God, we are all equal.
This has been such an eye-opening journey.
It really has.
I feel like I understand the complexities and wisdom of Hajj so much better now.
It's more than just history or rituals.
It's a living tradition that's still shaping lives today. I feel like my understanding of this incredible act of worship has grown so much.
We've dug deep, gone beyond the surface, and as we wrap up, I want you to think about this. These hadiths give us a glimpse into what the Prophet and his companions experienced during Hajj,
Right.
but they're also a guide for us, even if we haven't made the pilgrimage ourselves.
They show us these universal principles of devotion, self-reflection, and striving for excellence.
We can apply these to everything we do,
Hajj is a journey of transformation
a path we can walk every day.
by being mindful, compassionate, and connecting with the divine.
Beautifully said. We can carry the spirit of Hajj within us, even if we haven't physically been there.
It's about living those principles of submission, devotion, and aiming for something higher.
In everything we do.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us.
It's been my pleasure.
I've learned so much from you.
I hope this knowledge benefits us all and inspires us to keep learning and growing on our spiritual journeys.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Sahih Muslim Book 7. We hope you've learned something new about Hajj and its importance. Until next time, may your search for knowledge and meaning be filled with wonder and inspiration. Peace be upon you.